Hello, I am a compulsive rambler and I would like to rant more than ramble today about the issue of E followed by the letter D clinics. Why these clinics are actually very harmful to people with bed especially, even BN and to some degree even people with AN. They can be made more likely to transfer from one to the other because they are being told that overconsumption isn't a problem. Very if they are taught about bed, it's with some misleading ideas around it, and also definitely being told that recovery doesn't mean getting to a healthy weight like they are with the other one. Told that usually. So I want to talk about another example I've got. The other time I did Eating Recovery Centre and how they love promoting Aubrey Gordon. This is another one, the Red Clinic. Another major, well, they're not as big as Eaton Recovery Centre. They're not teeny tiny. They've got a media presence, so they can't be that tiny. And this is who you are telling people to go and seek help from. If you're in anti-fat acceptance and you're telling people without caveats, without clarifying that this is going on, that they should seek help for their bed, just please bear this in mind. This is what help looks like. This is the help. This is the kind of thing that is sending people further into fat acceptance TikTok. Fat acceptance TikTok, so many of them have a history of being in these clinics and they come out super health at every size pilled. The staff there are telling them the stuff that they are telling people online, and we need to focus to some degree as much as we can on these. Okay, this is a section of this long video where most of it's fine, and this is how they get away with it, with no one noticing that it's coming from these clinics. Most of this video has nothing to do with fat acceptance, but listen to this awful load of fat acceptance coming from a clinic that's supposed to help people and specialize in E followed by the letter D, or one of the sub-departments does.
It's when we see trends repeat themselves, like at different levels or in different systems.
Okay, so for context, the reason she's giving this definition is that she's talking about why people will be in denial around a person with an E followed by the letter D. She's only talking about AN and BN, the ones where you restrict to the point that you're underweight, and the one where you overconsume and then purge and then keep your weight either normal or above weight because of the purging. And she only mentions those in this video. At least she does not mention bed at all, but she does mention those two. So she's thinking of those two as she's speaking, right? And she's saying that the family can be in denial sometimes, not just the person. Okay, all fine. Most of this video I have nothing against. I watched it because I'm interested in all of the EDs, and this had some really interesting things in it, right? But there's a section now where she is going to say that the reason that some family members are in denial is that society as a whole is in denial about AN and BN, and that society as a whole doesn't care about AN and BN and is so much more obsessed with obesity. To me, it is the complete opposite way around.
Okay. So if you think about our society as a whole, one of my most just one of the things I think about, in terms of the NIH, government funding. That's what the NIH does. It provides government funding for different research out there in our society, in our world, okay? If you look at NIH funding for something like the obesity epidemic in our
The way
country,
she says that,
right? You're going to see that funding is up in the billions or millions of dollars, okay? And
as it
every
should be.
single year, it's actually billions now. So
It should be. Obesity it's the leading cause of the leading causes of death, like heart disease, cancer. Yes, not all cancers, but many cancers are made more likely, happen younger, are more deadly if you start out obese, and various autoimmune diseases are made worse by obesity. So, and the economic cost is enormous in her country. See, I'm pretty sure she's United States. I know, usually I can tell the difference between Canadians and United States. I'm pretty sure this is United States. And even if it's Canada, it's less true, but still true there, that it's an enormous social problem that costs a lot of money in various ways, some of which are not normally even counted. It's including days off sick, or the amount of time that people miss off work because they are having to have some medical procedure done because of their obesity, early retirement because you are now immobile, you've damaged your knees, you've damaged your hips, and you wouldn't have done if you hadn't had so much weight when you fell down, and you maybe wouldn't have fallen down at all if you weren't very top heavy and things like this. It is an enormous problem. It deserves that attention. But listen to the dismissive tone. The way she even said the word obesity, the obesity epidemic. The way she said it, I might be autistic, but I know what that tone means. That is dismissive, okay?
Every single year, NIH is funding research in obesity, which is considered a medical condition, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of wariness and fear around it, right? In the medical world and in our world in general.
Yes, of course there is. There would be if we had an epidemic of people starving to death and dying young because they were going hungry in your country. Surely, yes, there would be fear and wariness. Of course, there should be. There should be fear about something that is killing people. People have been dying very young now. It's getting younger and younger because you know why? It's getting younger and younger that people are dying of obesity complications because the severity of obesity is getting younger and younger. People are able now to obtain so many calories and are choosing, or their parents are choosing, to give them so many calories per day that they are beginning to get super morbidly obese as toddlers, as tiny little children. And then that means that the complications get you even younger. You've got people dying in their 20s, their teenage years of obesity complications. Diabetes type 2 didn't even used to be heard of in anyone under 18. And now that used to be called adult diabetes, adult type diabetes, adult onset diabetes, and now it stopped being called that because it became a thing in children. And now even dying of obesity used to be absolutely unheard of in children, but it's because people are getting so much bigger. It's not just it's not just the percentage of people who are overweight or obese. It's the severity of it within those who are has been getting so much worse. I can't believe that she's talking about this like it's not ruining lives. These poor little children you see, who are already by the time they're 5, they're waddling around in pain. They've got chub rub by the age of 3 now. It's insane. I had chub rub in my mid-30s when I got overweight then, right? And that was bad enough. I can't imagine being a little toddler where you're so full of beans and you want to run around and it's like really sad to watch. And they don't even know yet how bad it's going to get, you know? But to play down this and say it doesn't deserve all the funding, it's really, I don't know if it's just incredible ignorance and denial, or if it's part of the ED condition, because so many of these staff people who work in this field have it. They have one of the forms of it, and so I don't know. I'm trying not to be too mean, and I don't want to make it personal. I'm just drawing attention to the institutional problem. The institutional problem of E followed by the letter D centers spreading the misinformation about obesity and about bed.
And they're funding this just to find ways to beat it and to overcome the epidemic, okay?
That is revolt. I'm sorry. I can't help it, and my emotions are coming out. That is a revolting attitude. The air quotes is revolting. This I don't know if anyone watching this, I assume that you have some personal stake in it, like I do. I do have the autistic special interest, which I would have anyway, but I also have my own personal health history where I noticed my conditions get worse in a way I did not actually expect. Even with all my knowledge, I was shocked at how much worse they got when I gained 40 pounds heavier than I am now, something like that. Um, and I'm short, so that's significant. On someone 5'1", 40 pounds is a significant chunk of your body weight, right? As a percentage, it's a big chunk. It's not like being 7 foot and having 40 pounds is not such a drastic thing. And that was enough, though. That was enough to really. And I also had people in my life develop health problems because of obesity, and I've actually witnessed something very dramatic of somebody having a complication, an acute sudden complication, and they passed away a few days later, somebody I knew. And this was happening while I was losing weight. It was all like the timing of it could only cause me to further my interest because it's now deeply personal. So I'm thinking of those people that, you know, in my life and just in general, people that I care about, you know, like people's well-being in general, but especially people I know. And how can you not have rage? I think it's just most people are not getting to this point in the video. So it's going under the radar. These clinics are flying under the radar of most people because this part is buried in this long old video where most of it's fine. But this little part of it is so disgusting. It is, imagine if it was someone saying there's no big deal about AN. There's no big deal about starvation. It's all a myth. You can be perfectly healthy, and all of the deaths caused when people are very underweight, it's just caused by discrimination and bone phobia. It's bone phobia, like they say fat phobia. How revolting a thing would that be to say, to deny that it's really that they weren't eating enough, and to say, well, it's just in their genes. Some people would never get that bony because their genes won't let them lose weight. This is the kind of rhetoric which is actually really disgusting to people on all ends.
But then if you go and look at how much funding is being provided for something like,
I just want to pause it in the middle so that hopefully YouTube won't pick up on that as much. I might even blank that word out. But basically, she's saying people with AN and BN, again, only mentions them as ED research, only mentions them, the least common ones. Put together, they are less common than bed. Put together, they're less common than bed. But she only mentions those as being in that realm of funding. And I'm pretty sure bed is counted in that funding, but she wants to just ignore bed completely. In at least this video, she's completely acting as if bed doesn't exist and that bed isn't included in this funding. It doesn't get enough funding compared to the others, actually. But the way she's talking is as if obesity, which isn't always caused by bed or isn't usually, but is a common cause of it, especially severe obesity. It's a very common contributing factor to why someone overeats that much. There are other reasons, but bed is one of the reasons people can overeat. And she wants to say that it's a waste of money to fund obesity, which is killing far more people than AN and BN put together. It affects more people than AN and BN put together. Obesity as a whole, as I said, that's not even just bed. But even if it was just bed is still more common than AN and BN put together. So how can she compare that and say we should be spending the same money on both of these problems? That is absolutely insane.
Research.
Or no, not the same. She thinks we shouldn't be spending any money because you could tell from the air quotes and stuff about beating it and overcoming it. She doesn't even think it's worth beating or overcoming. She doesn't think it's a problem to be solved at all.
It's in the $30 million range, and it's like that every year. So we're talking about billions of dollars in difference of what.
There are billions of dollars in difference in how much it costs your country financially, and millions more dying of obesity than the two EDs that you actually give a flying F about.
What is prioritized, if you want to call it that? What is considered more important from a funding perspective?
Maybe the one that kills and disables and maims and makes people incapacitated at a far greater rate. And, the only reason it used to be seen as the case that people with AN, died so much younger is because it is easier. You to get unhealthily low weight doesn't take as long as to get to like 700 pounds. It's just physiologically to gain that much weight takes longer, right? And so it hits you later because it takes you longer. But as I said, as people are getting obese from such a young age now, and they're eating so much food from such a young age, so many calories from such a young age, it is becoming more common that you can die of obesity as a damn teenager. That used to not happen, but you can die as a teenager now because you've got the time and the calories now. You are able to get that big that fast. So we can't even keep pretending that, oh well, yeah, but AN is more deadly in terms of per person. Like it depends on how severe the two cases are and how quickly they occur. Actually, it's just that in the past it used to take so much longer to get severely obese that you would survive longer. But that's getting less and less the case. People are dying just as young now from obesity as they die from AN.
Okay, so we see that at that level where maybe others are kind of brushed under the rug or they're not considered as serious.
Utter poppycock. People give so much more of an F about this than about obesity, and it's for a number of reasons. Some of it I think is instinctive. We have some primitive awareness that being really bony is a thing, but our ancestors never would have ever seen anyone even 300 pounds, let alone 600 plus. Okay, we would never have seen it.
And then if you look at just kind of like in the population, there's a lot of myths about eating, right? There are myths about how really only affect young white girls in their 20s, when we know actually that's not the case at all.
That's a myth.
Eating discriminate.
So, and this is, I wanted to show you that part because it shows now she's slipping back into just normal, reasonable, sane things that she's saying now, right? And so, but most of the video is fine. And this is, how long was this video? 27 minutes, 25 seconds. And this is what I want you to be aware of. Just because a YouTube channel that's a clinic doesn't promote it, doesn't obviously shout from the rooftops that it's fat acceptance, health at every size. So many of them are. It's just that it's not the main focus, and so it's not entertaining for reaction channels, and they wouldn't even find them in the first place. I don't blame the cynical dude for not knowing about this. Why would he? I only know about it because I have this special interest, this autistic special interest from such a young age in all things health and mental health and nutrition, which led me obviously to find EDs fascinating. I've been watching this stuff for so long that I was aware that clinics talk like this, and they say all this crap about, oh, it's society's fault that people are obsessed with their body, instead of explaining that it's just people choose to obsess as a distraction from other things, and it's a really convenient distraction because you're focused on food and body and society, and you can put all of these things together, and all together it comes into, you're feeling stuffed or you're feeling empty. These are distracting sensations that numb you out to emotions. All these, like, it just is a convenient type of thing to obsess over, more so than obsessing over how big your nose is or whatever, which you can do as well, but it's less common because it's really like such a convenient, all-encompassing thing to obsess specifically over your weight. But that's the reason it's so common to obsess over it. Not that society as a whole is more obsessed with it, but that people who have these trauma responses where they choose to obsess over this, over something, this is such an obvious thing to obsess over because it is something you can control. Certainly in most situations you can control that you eat loads, or you control that you don't eat much at all. So, and then you can also link it with all these other things, and it's not helpful at all that these clinics, this is the red clinic I'm naming and shaming, because I don't want all these people who are doing the right thing of seeking help, right? And we all are here that you're supposed to seek help for any vice, any addiction, any maladaptive coping mechanism. You seek therapy. But what happens if the therapy is toxic? And so many people report going into these places with bed, and they either get misdiagnosed with this atypical ANA stuff, which is just all the cases I've seen, it's just been bed, or it's been someone actually developing AN that went on to be real AN. But most of the time it's someone still doing the bouncing up and down yo-yo dieting so that you can enjoy your binges more because you've waited so long that the food tastes better, or you always wanted the diet to fail so you could go back to the binging. They mistake that for AN. It's not the same psychology as AN. It's not, the restriction isn't done really with the same underlying unconscious motives. You're not intending to binge at the end when you have real AN, but you are with bed. You're going to binge at the end. Like, it's different. It's so different. But they will misdiagnose them and therefore give them inappropriate treatment, inappropriate diet plans. They want to give them the same food as the people who are actually starving, which is ridiculous. And they want to give them this advice about don't worry about how big you get, keep eating. This is the intuitive eating part. They'll say keep eating until you feel full, but that doesn't work if that's what that person's been doing and it's made them that big. And they don't think you need to make your weight healthy as part of recovery if you start too big. They only care about you getting a healthy weight if you start too low. And sometimes I don't even know if they care then, because they will still insist that it's genetic. And well, if you say you're full, then I guess you, despite your low weight, maybe that is your natural set point, and all this crap they say, right? I hear it so much from YouTube comments and interviews with people who've been to these clinics. Remy Bader, people missed that. There was a part of her video which talked about she was made to gain weight when she went to a clinic. She went to get help for her bed, and it only made her more obese, ruined her health more. Encouraged her that she should not count calories and stuff, and weighed her, and there's so many people I've seen now report this. It's not an anecdotal one-off rare thing. It's a really common problem that's rampant, and I just wish we would draw more attention to this, because this is where the fat acceptance TikTok gets a lot of their stuff from. Ultimately, most of them might not know that now, but ultimately a lot of the rhetoric comes from there. Health at every size, and it didn't start on TikTok. It started from scientists, academics who seem to have this weird obsession themselves with fat phobia and stuff, because they've got some kind of issues with obsessing over that stuff on their own. And then they've pushed it onto society. But the random people on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram saying this stuff, they are not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is that when someone actually seeks help for their bed, they just get their bed reinforced.